Yo, what is up guys, Fair here, and today we're going to be looking at 3 things you might have missed in the legendary One Piece chapter 957. As you guys know, there's a lot of stuff in this chapter, and perhaps because of the overload of information that we got, some of you guys might have missed a lot of key points in this chapter and things that might hint towards key elements moving forward. But again, we're going to be talking about 3 things you might have missed, things that I feel will be important to the story. Even though we got a lot of answers to a lot of questions in this chapter about the old generation, I feel like there's even more questions now that pertaining to certain things that was mentioned in this chapter. But let's get on to the list and see what we have in store. Now the first one seems to be the obvious one. I think a lot of people notice, and that is pertaining to Blackbeard's connection to Rox the Xebec. And I did notice a lot of things that may tie these 2 characters together. First one being the fact that Blackbeard is currently on the island where Xebec basically created the Rox Pirates, which is on Beehive Island where Blackbeard currently resides, which is very weird, right? Is Blackbeard following the same path as Rox in a sense that this is a person that Blackbeard admired or someone that is related to him in some way, shape, or form? Because we also know that Blackbeard's ship is named after Rox's first name, Xebec. So there's definitely more there, and people have also tied Xebec to the darkness fruit because his Jolly Roger has a flaming skull. Now I'm not entirely sure if that's what it represents, but that's an interesting detail that a lot of people notice. But what I feel like is happening here is just like how Luffy is following in Roger's path and how Luffy has parallels to Roger. I feel like Rox is Blackbeard's parallel, whereas he shares a lot of similarities. So it's kind of a thing where Luffy inherited Roger's will and Blackbeard will probably inherited Rox's will. I think Blackbeard and Luffy are very similar yet different, and because of that difference they strive for different things. And I think the same thing applied here with Roger and the Rox Pirates, where they shared a lot of traits, but because of their ideals they clashed. And I think the same thing is going to happen here with Luffy and Blackbeard. End of story. But I might go more in depth in a separate video because I think there's a lot to talk about there when it comes to Blackbeard and Rox. Right now we also got the highest known bounties in the series, Whitebeard's bounty being confirmed to be 5 billion berries, and then we have Roger's at 5.5 billion berries, which makes Roger's bounty the highest known in the series. Now interestingly, they also said that no pirate has surpassed these bounties, the bounties of Whitebeard and Roger, so they are putting them in a separate class. Now Oda could have just said that no one has surpassed the bounties of these 2 individuals, but he specifically mentions pirates. In other words, he's classifying these bounties as the highest when it comes to pirates. So more than likely we're probably going to have Dragon's bounty as the highest in history, because we know that Dragon isn't a pirate, we know that he's a revolutionary. And it really begs the question as to what Dragon may have done to get a bounty that surpasses that of the Pirate King. Now mind you, the Pirate King is probably the biggest threat to the world government, or at least he should be, right? But if Dragon's bounty is really above Roger's, then he poses more of a threat than Roger himself. Dragon had to have done something insane for the world government to consider him as their greatest enemy, which is honestly the information I'm dying to know about when it comes to Dragon. I think sooner or later we're probably going to get more insight on what Dragon did, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that was covered up by the world government because Dragon gave them an L and they aren't too happy about it. Or it might be things relating to the Void Century, ancient weapons, poneglyphs, things of that regard. And I think people aren't ready for this once it's finally revealed. Like having a bounty higher than Roger, if anything that would elevate Dragon's hype to unseen levels. Now even though the revolutionaries have been losing for the most part, I think their time is definitely coming soon. And finally we come to Roger and Garp and the context surrounding their alliance that took place on God's Valley. Now for some reason a lot of people think that Garp and Roger planned to take on the Rox from the beginning, but from what I took from Sengoku's explanation, he made it seem like it was unintentional because it was mentioned that they encountered each other on the island, which makes it seem like Garp didn't know Roger would be there. But since he was and they were heading towards the same goal to defeat the Rox Pirates, they teamed up. And it also seemed like Roger, even though he was a pirate, was someone who was willing to protect the Celestial Dragon, which was weird. So I think there was probably a greater cause here. Roger felt like he needed to take down the Rox regardless of what he had to do to defeat them. Same thing applied here for Garp. I felt like it was probably Roger who convinced Garp to team up, and more likely Roger also brought in his crew. But I feel like this portion of the backstory can be broken down in several ways because there's definitely more context to what really happened, as it doesn't make too much sense, right? Why 2 members of the D family would go as far as to protect the Celestial Dragon, who should be their worst enemy, right? So it really gives you a lot to think about. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you guys think. I want to hear your thoughts regarding this chapter. Like the video if you like this, and subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. But it is fair, guys, and I will see you guys and gals later. Peace.